I'd like to grant permission to the Westwood Media Center to live stream and record this. And I'll ask anyone else if they want to record. Okay, not hearing anything. We have Erica helping us out here, but not hearing anything. We'll just move forward from there. Per the agenda here, I've got some introductory comments. First of all, welcome to everybody. I hope everybody had a good summer despite COVID and all the other challenges that we had. I'm really looking forward to the fiscal year 2021 season. You know, it's going to pose a lot of unique challenges, maybe not as many challenges as we initially thought, but in the fall, but certainly a lot of challenges. Once again, thanks for nominating me as the chair. I would like to build upon the great work of the various chairs that I've served under, Mary Ann LeBlanc and Julie Bride and Barb Delisle. Although those chairs kind of were, they had many different individual skills, to me, there were a lot of consistencies they had in common that I'd like to continue with. One, the encouragement of all members to participate and contribute. We really need the combined benefits and intelligence of everybody. So looking into tapping into all those skills from every individual. Two, kind of the treatment of everyone with respect. All members of the commission and members of the town that come up to talk to us and Westwood citizens. I really can't stress that enough, to treat everyone with respect. I mean, this group has been a fantastic group in doing that. I want to make sure that we continue. When you see a lot of things that are going on in the country right now, we just want to make sure that we're really listening, and we really want to look at some contrary opinions. I think contrary opinions are good. I think some of the best things we've done is when we've had different warrant articles to discuss and we weren't really sure, and then we heard from a lot of different folks on that, and it really helped out us coming up with an overall conclusion. And you know, that's really, I know that everyone has busy lives, but we're really going to try to spread out the workload as best that we can from folks. So very brief, but those are kind of my introductory comments. And let me see, Jane, do you want to try to announce all the members to make sure we have a roll call here?
That would be terrific. If I could just ask the members just briefly to unmute yourselves. And also Tommy Kilgariff has joined us, so we are almost at full. Jim might, sneak in a little bit later. Sometimes he gets caught up at this time of night. So I'm going to call the roll, starting with Peter Lentz.
Here.
Bill Bruce.
Here.
Jim Ferraro is not with us yet. Lauren Fitzpatrick, I'm sorry, Lauren.
Here.
George Hertz.
Here.
Angela Hughes.
Here.
Peter Ittig.
Here.
Caitlin Jerzak.
Here.
Tom Kilgariff.
Here.
Diane McCarthy.
Here.
Chris Pareda.
Here.
And Mike Powers.
Here.
Okay, all set. Thanks.
Okay, next I'd like to do the Pledge of Allegiance, if we could all go together on that. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thanks. So let me see, what I wanted to do, and I'm going to try to make sure I attend all the select board meetings this year. Obviously, those are very important meetings. In the past, I have not attended those as a non-chair here, but I'd really like to make sure I understand that and see what they're doing, because I think it's very important to us as far as what we see. So what I wanted to do is I've attended the last three, give you a very brief update. Obviously, you know that you can see that through the Westwood Media Center at any time. But on July 13th, Tom Philbin gave an update on various projects. And different projects are going through with a savings goal in phase 2 of a 70K benefit in year 1. They're going to be doing a Hanlon solar array, which involves a significant amount of tree clearing at Hanlon. Tom was asked the question, and he did say that they've coordinated that so as not to conflict with a potential new school over in the Hanlon if that goes through. So they're doing some other projects in Thurston, of which I'm not sure exactly what those are, but they're also looking into carports at the Council of Aging and Westwood Police. So Tom, as you know, is a guy that's done phenomenal things for the town, and he continues to do that. That same meeting, Todd Kirchin also talked about looking to implement an adaptive signal program on Route 109, all the way from Summer Street down to Louderbrook, which is a far away, and hopefully that's going to help with some of the traffic issues that we have. Once again, this is not everything that was discussed. I bring up more things that I think are more related to our own business, and once again, I ask you to look into those meetings on Westwood Media Center if you want to. Let me see, on August 3rd, Westwood Affordable Housing released 600K of previously approved funding for projects to bring online affordable housing on High Street and Lanark Drive. This is 600K of the $1 million that was funded. I think that this really might come from a question that Jim Ferraro had last year, where he was asking about, hey, what's the status of things? And I thought that question from Jim was very good. I think maybe one of the things that I like to make sure that we do, a lot of times we go through and in the previous year, we approve of capital, approve of different projects, and then we don't really get updates how that money's being spent. And I thought Jim's question was a good question. So they were giving an update on that. One of the things they also did in that meeting, and it'd be interesting to know how many people have heard of this, is there's going to be a new Amazon warehouse, which is actually entirely within the town of Norwood's borders, but it impacts Westwood residents. It's right off of Everett Street. The project was approved by the town of Norwood without any prior notice to Westwood officials, which really people weren't, the select board was not very happy with finding out about that after the fact, especially as you can understand an Amazon warehouse could have significant traffic issues and concerns. This will be, it's planned to start November 1st, and eventually it's going to be effectively a 24-hour-a-day operation. There's great concern by town officials and residents on traffic, lighting, and noise concerns. Just so you know, the town has had multiple meetings with the abutters and Norwood town officials to try to alleviate some of the concerns. But it seems inevitable, pretty much, that this project is going to go through. I have a little bit more to say about that in a future meeting, because the next meeting in September, they talked about that also. In that August meeting, we had good news from the state of Massachusetts that was announced that they would promise to, at a minimum, level fund FY21 and have committed some funding for the town use of personal protective equipment, which is really key. And really, that's the real reason why we don't have a fall town meeting at this point in time, because the budgets are much more certain at this point in time, or funding is much more certain at this point in time than it was, say, when we had the last town meeting. By the way, you saw the agenda for future business. We are going to have Pam at our next meeting in October, and she'll be giving a budget update, of which a lot of this will be talked about too. So in September, they announced that this new alert notification system that was being implemented, and it's powered by this smart 911 system. For those of you who haven't heard of that, most of you should have gotten a notice, but the current system is kind of updated and you can sign up. I've just done that. It wasn't that difficult to go to the town website and sign up to get Westwood Alert messages, so that they'll notify you. So that was discussed in the September meeting. Once again, Amazon was brought up again. 2 more meetings with the neighborhood and Amazon. Amazon shared a site plan. There continues to be more concern. The select board, I will say, went into executive session after that meeting. And one of the things they said they were going to do is discuss legal options that the town would have associated with this. Because it was executive session, I have no idea what their conclusion was or anything like that. And I won't speculate on that, but at least they were going into executive session to talk about that. In that same September meeting, they voted for no fall town meeting, due in large part to that state funding. And we know that saves us a significant amount of time, as we don't have to meet on all different warrants that might come up and revisions of budgets and things like that. So I think it's worthwhile that we keep up to date on those, and I'm going to take the pledge to go to all those meetings and try to keep you informed. So let me stop there and see if there are any questions from folks regarding anything that we've just talked about. And I think you might be muted, but just kind of raise your hand or unmute your mics, and any questions would be good.
Peter, I just wanted to let you know, we have a full board now. Everybody's
Yeah, I saw. That's great. Jim, I gave you props and you weren't even there. Okay, no questions about that. Let me just ask you generally a question. Have people, you could even just raise your hand, have you heard about this new Amazon warehouse in Norwood? Okay, some have, but doesn't sound like a lot have. So there's certainly going to be a lot of play in the town on that. But as I said, I don't think unless you know, the select board comes up with something that I'm aware of, I don't think there's any real stopping that right now. I think what we're trying to do is mitigate any issues associated with that.
Peter, is
Can
it
you
already?
tell us again where that is?
It's off of Everett Street.
It's formerly a
Diagonal.
liquor warehouse.
Yeah, exactly. If you're aware of that.
Near the
Behind
UPS.
Forbes and Strasser.
Yeah. And what they're trying to do in some of the discussions is they're trying to have the traffic that would go on to Canton Street be minimal. Minimal in that it wouldn't be any semis. It wouldn't be any of the vans unless those vans have packages that are delivering to that specific area off of Canton Street. But with that said, it's not going to be a good thing for those neighbors when you think of a 24/7 operation. So, okay. So more to be said on this, and encourage you to do your own research on that. And, you know, it's one of those things where the town will get no tax revenue from this because it's really not in the town, but we get some aggravation from it.
And a comment, as I understand it, those trucks will need to either turn on Canton Street or at the intersection of Route 1 and Everett. And both of those, that should be fun.
Yeah, yeah. And to the extent that semis are not supposed to go through Canton Street in Westwood, then a lot of them might go to Route 1, and I'm not sure how that traffic pattern is really going to work. But there have been traffic studies that have been shared with the select board. I haven't seen those, but there have been traffic studies, so they're looking into that. Okay, we've provided a FinCom draft meeting schedule, as part of the package that Jane has sent you. Within that draft package, it's certainly, as I kind of alluded to before, it's less austere as we thought it might be if we had a fall town meeting. So because of that, really what we have right now, what we know is we want to have Pam in to talk to us about the current budget situation. Past that, we don't have a specific plan for what we should talk about. So really here, I'd be looking for some discussion here about different things that we could do for discussion. So don't know if any folks have thoughts on that.
Yes, I do.
Okay, go ahead, Peter.
I've now been a member of this commission for a year, and I do have some observations. Basically, it appears to me that the way the budget process works is that the town calculates the maximum property tax increase that may be imposed without an override, and then works back from that to form the budget which this commission is asked to endorse. Anything left over is put into reserve funds that may be used for various purposes, except property tax relief. The operating budget is presented to us as a package for an up or down vote. There's no negotiation and no line item veto. The latest increase in the operating budget was 4.2%, excluding debt service. The result of this budget process was an increase in the property taxes on homes of 3% this year and last year, 2% the year before that, and 4.6% the year before that. These numbers are shown, I would say, hidden in the back of the warrant book that is issued by this commission on page 66 of the most recent version in June. I have been disappointed that the commission has not tried to restrain these tax increases, particularly as there has been a large amount of new revenue in recent years from the University Station development and other new construction, as well as the new taxes on hotels and restaurants. Voters incorrectly assume that the tax increase is capped at 2.5%, and the town is happy to allow that confusion. The actual tax increase is not mentioned in the budget proposal voted at town meeting or in the commission's printed comments on that proposal. Minority objections were also omitted from the commission's printed comments on the budget proposal. A relatively new issue is that increases in property taxes are now much more expensive for homeowners, as property taxes are no longer deductible on federal forms due to recent changes in federal tax law. Until recently, increases in property taxes were partially offset by the federal tax deduction. Future increases will not be offset on federal taxes for most of us. This makes increases much more expensive for homeowners than in prior years. There are particular issues for seniors whose pensions do not rise as fast as property taxes, so their budget gets tighter each year. I have been disappointed that this commission is not more active in informing the taxpayers of the impact of the proposed budget on taxes and in not attempting to restrain the tax increases on homes on behalf of the taxpayers that we represent. I encourage you to join with me in attempting to restrain the tax increases this year. At our next meeting, I would like to introduce a motion that this commission ask the select board to submit a budget this year that holds the increase in property tax on homes to no more than 2.5%. I would like to invite discussion of this idea or suggestions of other ways that we might restrain the increases in the property taxes on homes. Thank you.
Okay, so there's a lot there, Peter. So first of all, I think that when you brought up similar items at the end of last year, I think what was said is, okay, it's a little too late, talking last year, to impact the budget. So we have to be proactive in the future. And so I think that's what you're trying to do. Okay. There was a lot that you had there. The motion to limit taxes, that to me, maybe I don't understand it, but it almost sounds like you're asking for some sort of a warrant article from the Finance Commission to the Select Board. And I don't necessarily think that's within our purview. I think that
No, that's not what I was asking. Firstly, I have not made a motion. I'm discussing a possible motion, perhaps at the next meeting. But the motion that I was considering would be something like to have the commission request that the select board submit a budget proposal that holds the increase in property taxes on homes to no more than 2.5%. This is not a warrant article. It would merely be a request from this commission to the select board that they present a request that they present a budget proposal this year that holds the increase in the property taxes on homes to no more than 2.5%, not a warrant article.
Okay, I think we'd have to have a lot more discussion on that before we would want to put something like that forward. Really, from my experience, our job has been not to set limits with the town, but it is to evaluate the budgets as we see, to interview all the key town budget leaders, and then to provide an opinion on the budget that they request, not to provide budget guidelines to them. That's really, to me, it's the select board that puts the budget guidelines to the town.
Yeah, can I offer something on that too, Pete, please?
Sure.
Yeah, I don't see our role as initiating budget proposals. We vet out from department heads, from the select board and others, the reasons why they are going to expend the dollars that they're going to expend. And Peter, to your point, you have every right, I think, and we all have a responsibility to challenge what we believe is cost above and beyond what they should be, which ultimately leads to increases in your concern with property taxes. I don't know, Peter, if we have the authority or are looked at as a group that initiates any budget proposals or anything in that nature. So I'm a little confused.
And Peter, I was going to actually add in as well, similar to what Mike was saying. I think that while I can certainly appreciate Peter's concerns on property taxes and all, yeah, it may not be within our purview to make recommendations like that to the select board, but I, similar to what I think Mike was saying, I think that's a difficult, even if it was within our purview, I think it's a difficult thing to broach, because one doesn't know what the budget's going to bring and all the many facets of the budget. So I think I think we have to trust, like Mike was saying, I think we trust all the various boards and departments and department heads within the town, and then we review things and vet things as they're presented to us. But to request or set a cap, if you will, without jumping to the finish line without going through the rest of the race, I think is a tough deal, with or without a pandemic. Thank you.
Yeah, I agree. I think our process has been to you sit with those heads and sit with Pam and to just understand the key aspects of what goes into the budget, and then to try to evaluate that, not to in advance of that set limits that in my mind are somewhat arbitrary. I don't know how, I wouldn't even, if it was in our purview, I wouldn't know how to set that limit because I'm not aware of all the parameters of the expenditures that they have. But looking to hear other folks' viewpoint on this.
And an observation on that, there is an arbitrary limit set now, which is that the town calculates the maximum tax increase that can be imposed without an override. That appears to be the basis of everything subsequent.
I think that would be something that we could ask Pam when she's with us. That is that exactly how you do it, Pam? Because I'm not convinced that's the case. So go ahead. I think someone else was going to ask a question.
Yeah, Peter, this is Chris. I agree with Peter Idig that there's widespread confusion amongst the taxpayers about just what the limit is on year over year tax increases. It's unfortunate that the moniker Proposition 2.5 has stuck with the taxpayers in their minds. It would be near impossible to say for each individual homeowner, your taxes could only increase 2.5%. It's just, I don't think that's feasible. And as I recall, although Pam does calculate the maximum taxing authority for every year, I don't believe last year the town actually assessed the maximum authority it could. But again, you raise a good point. Let's ask Pam that question next month when she briefs us initially on what they're thinking of for the next fiscal year. And Peter, that's when you can raise this question again.
Yeah. And
observation about that, there is a table in the back of the warrant that shows the unused tax capacity, which is frequently zero.
okay. But I think you bring up a good point when you talk about questions for Pam and questions for anybody that is in front of the board, to the extent that we set forth a schedule for us. And Julie Bride started to do this previously. I think it's to everyone's benefit that we submit to that presenter as many of our questions that we have as possible beforehand. And so that presenter really knows what we want to talk about. So I would encourage Peter and everybody else to actually put pen to paper, send those questions through Jane, and we will get those to the presenter. Okay. And it shouldn't be necessarily a day beforehand where they don't really have time. We should try to set something where they have at least a few work days to be able to address those questions. But I think it's very worthwhile. The questions that are coming up here, and Pam is as good as anybody I've ever seen. And so we can ask her and get her direct answers on those. Okay. Over and above Peter's thoughts, which I think really do fall into questions for Pam, any other topics that you would like to see? Let me just put out a couple of those. I think that, and I kind of mentioned this before, where we approve a lot of capital in the prior year for this year, we've approved a lot of capital, and it's been voted for in the town meeting. I think some sort of update on spending status of that capital would be worthwhile. And Jim, this is where I was talking about you talking about affordable housing money. where, you know, something was approved a while ago and then you never hear anything of it. And I think it'd be worthwhile for us to hear about that. So I think that should be something that we should find out about.
Peter?
Yep.
So next year, obviously, the town's going to be faced with a major proposed construction project. And I think we really need to get the people from the school building committee in front of us to have them explain what their thought processes are and really justify this project going forward, especially in these times.
Yeah, Chris, that's a great thought. I had that on my list. I hadn't gotten to it yet. I want to understand a lot more about the whole process of, you know, everyone is concerned with tax revenues coming in. Certainly, we've got a break from the state this year, but who knows what the next year will be. And going out for a new school, you know, could be that's definitely going to be an override, and that could be very difficult on a lot of taxpayers. So I think it's very worthwhile to get an update on that school project. So that to me is a definite that we should have. Anything else?
Yeah, Peter, you know, the concern that I have, and it's really at this point probably unknown, is the long-term effects of COVID and how it affects national funding to states funding to local cities and towns. How much, what I'd like to know is how much funding have we received from the state, or what we typically receive from the state? And then try to figure out, well, I don't know if we can figure it out, but just to understand what the potential impact could be should there be shortfalls in revenue, because that certainly is going to, I would think, have a pretty significant impact. That and the ongoing costs to the town through COVID. You know,
Right.
that wasn't expected. That wasn't planned for, obviously. So how is that going to have an immediate, what's the anticipated immediate impact, and what potential long-term impacts will be from this whole thing?
Yeah, I agree, Mike. And that's something that I think should be a specific question to Pam. And then to the extent we don't hear enough, maybe we talk to the select board about that. I understand that there has been, over and above the regular funding from the state, there has been an additional amount of dollars that the state has provided to the town, and providing to all the towns, but, you know, obviously we're in line too, that the town can use at their discretion. And I think it's intended for things like personal protective equipment and things like that, because obviously the town's gone through some expenditures associated with that. As a secondary aspect to your question, I would like to know what the town has done, you know, to date for their municipal offices, for the schools, different things like that related to COVID.
Yeah, at the outset of this, Pam gave us some hope that because of the strong position the town is in financially currently, that certainly they could weather the storm. However, you know, the storm, there's no end in sight. So how's that impact going to look? So,
Right. Good point.
I'd like to make an observation. You
Peter,
mentioned that the
Peter, I'm
proposed school
sorry.
project may require a large tax increase. That's not clear to me. The last payment on the high school bonds will occur during this fiscal year, I believe. So the new school project, as I understand it, would increase taxes only if the new project costs more than the high school. Though that's something that we would need to hear more about.
Yeah, I just believe, and maybe I didn't explain it, my view correctly, is I felt that there would be something that would have to be approved as an override by the town. I think your point may be correct, Pete. I don't know if it's right or it isn't. But I think that the size of the expenditure would require approval as an override.
Yes.
Okay. But good point. Thanks. Anybody else?
Peter, Lance, can you just clarify for me, just so I'm clear? You said that you wanted, what has the town done to date for COVID specific details? For, you said for the buildings, what was that?
Well,
exactly?
I would think for the employees, what they've done for the employees and also what they've done in the school system. What are the budget implications for whatever they've done?
So the budget for what they've done, you mean what they've spent?
What they've spent and what they intend to spend.
Okay, thank you.
And don't forget the additional cost to the election passed and the one coming up. That's been a significant cost from my observation.
Yeah. Okay, I think those are good thoughts associated with different topics that we could put in our meeting schedule. If I could move on, there's a new member update is on the agenda, and I don't have a lot to report here, but let me tell you what I've done. I've had a couple of conversations with Jim O'Sullivan, and there's been, some email traffic. I can't share everything that he said, but he had some people that have come forward, but he has not taken that group and then come forward to say, okay, these are the people that he would nominate to be on the Finance and Warrant Commission. I know we're just starting right now, and we should have those members right now. We should. So this is something I'm going to have to press a little bit more. I haven't pressed it maybe as much as I could have when I heard about the no fall town meeting and the fact that the state budget funding was level funded at least. I didn't push it as much. To the extent that we didn't have that, then I think we'd be jumping up and down to make sure we have those members, because we'd have all these warrants to evaluate and a lot of key meetings to have. So maybe not as much of an update as you would like, but that's what I have right now. But open to any questions or thoughts on that.
So Peter, it's not on new members, but we only considered the finance warrants at the last town meeting. What happens to the additional warrants that did not get considered?
I think those would have to be resubmitted either in the same language or a different language for us to evaluate again. And we would have to evaluate those again. To the extent that it's exactly the same, then we could rely a bit on some of our prior discussions. But we have new members, times have changed. We'd have to reevaluate all those warrants.
And actually, when I talked to Pat Ahern about this, the boards that brought those warrants that were not voted in June would have to rebring those before their boards. So basically you'd start from scratch on those warrant articles.
Okay, any other thoughts? I've kind of combined, when I talked about the draft meeting schedule and topics of interest, I've kind of combined those two topics in our discussion here. So anything more related to that? I know we've had some good discussion here, and I appreciate that.
Hi,
Okay.
I had a question regarding recommendations for the board. So I actually recommended someone, and I'm just curious about how that works, and would I hear whether that person declined or what the decision was made in terms of that person? How does it work exactly?
Yeah, I'm not sure, Angela. I know that Jim would come forward with candidates. I believe that when he has multiple, let's just say we have 3 openings and he has 5 candidates. I think it would be something that he would at least discuss with me to get my thoughts, as he might discuss that with other townspeople, maybe select board or whatever.
My understanding was from prior experiences that Jim, as the moderator, one of his responsibilities as moderator is to point people to committees and FinCom, et cetera, et cetera. And then my understanding was that he interviews potential candidates and then makes a selection and submits those names that are going to be part of the committee.
Yeah, I don't think, I agree with what you said. I just think there may be a process where he would at least run something by me. I know that when we had an initial discussion, he did talk about a few names. Obviously, I'm not at liberty to talk about the names, but he did bring forth a couple of names to me. So Angela, I'm not sure if that really answers your question. I don't think he would necessarily go back to anyone who was the nominator of someone per se, but he might come back to me as the chair.
Okay, thank you.
All right. But as I said, I promised you I'll be pushing back on this more vigorously now, because we are starting our schedule. Okay. The next topic is subcommittee assignments. I've got some information from folks, not totally, but Jane has summarized that for me. And maybe what I could do is just give you my thoughts, and then we can just go from there. Let's talk about education. Diane, you were the chair, and I would hope that you could continue to be the chair in education, if that's good for you. Bill, you were part of the education subcommittee, and I would continue to want you to be part of that. I would also take one of the 3 folks that we end up getting and also put them in the education committee, and we'd have to look at their backgrounds and interests and everything like that. So in terms of education, that's what I was thinking. Now, Chris, you were on education before, and I know you expressed at some point in time a potential interest in being the vice chair, but you weren't sure about your background. So I thought it might be a good idea, Chris, that you go into the municipal subcommittee and then get some experience on the municipal side. And then you'd have both the education and the municipal side. And that would, work out really, I think, well for you and well for us. So does that sound okay to you? Okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah. Mike Powers. Mike, I know that you said you will serve where needed. I was thinking, because you have some background in municipal, and we do need a lot of hands on the municipal side, that, I was thinking of you on the municipal side. If that fits with your thought process. If not, I'll entertain other thoughts.
My only reservation has to do with the town clerk's office, obviously. I don't want to give any appearance of anything. However, if we can design a role that does municipal, that excluding
Yeah.
town clerk, then absolutely.
Okay. So that's fine that we can do that. Angela, you were doing municipal, and I think that it might be worthwhile for you to have another year with that. And so I was continuing to slot you in there. If you have other thoughts on that, I'd certainly listen.
No, I'm fine with it. Actually, I sent Jane a note to let her know that I'm fine with being on the municipal, again, subcommittee. Yep.
Okay. And Tom, you have a lot of experience in municipal, and I was hoping that you would continue on with that too.
Sure, whatever you need, Pete.
Okay, great.
Got it.
So that would give us 4 folks and potentially, excuse me. Yeah, that would give us 4 folks and potentially a new member. And someone like myself that is familiar with all the workload and all the different departments that you have to interview and everything like that. I think 5 would be a good number there. And what I'd like to do is hold back on the chair right now until I talk to some folks and see their thoughts about chair on there. Okay, so for community and economic development and planning, Lauren and Jim have been co-chairs with Caitlin on that. I am fine with that continuing as is. And I didn't know any of your 3 of your thoughts on that, if you're okay with that.
I have no thoughts. That's fine.
I'm fine.
Okay.
That works. Yep, sounds good.
Okay, good. Financial, capital planning, future planning. We have George as the chair and Peter as a member, and I'm fine with that. George, you had mentioned, and this was before we found out that we were getting level funded from the state, but that maybe we should have someone as, you know, more focused on the budget for the town. I would like to continue with you and Peter in capital and in future planning, but I might want to have a side discussion with you about, you know, that budget aspect of things.
Yeah, that's fine. Whatever works is fine with me, Peter.
Okay. Okay. All right, I appreciate that. So I think that what we've done is we've covered certainly everyone that's at this meeting. And I would invite folks, if they want to talk to me personally, certainly I would listen. Sometimes maybe within our larger group, you might have thoughts you don't want to get across in a larger group, but you might in an individual conversation. I'd be open to that. And also, Diane, I think you've been the liaison with the building. Yes. And I think with your knowledge and being the chair of education, I think that's just a very logical thing for you to continue on with that.
Yeah, happy to do that.
I wouldn't want to have a break on that, especially at this critical time.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's good. Unless there are any other comments, Jane, you want to just have a discussion about the contacts list?
Sure, I sent that along to everybody. If you have any changes, you can either email me or just let me know, just take a look at it. And then I did get one change tonight, and I will update that. And then if anybody else has anything, let me know. If not, I'll send off the updated version so you all have it. And I also just wanted to let you know when someone from the town asks me for your contact information, I never give it out until I let you know in advance. So I just wanted you to feel assured that that wouldn't happen. I wouldn't be handing out your information. So that's it from me.
Hey, Peter, I just had one last thought, and that is if we get new members on the committee, it seems to me that in this world of Zoom, it's going to be a little bit more challenging for them to get comfortable, you know, getting to know other members. So you may want to think of some way of having somebody, maybe, I don't want to use the word mentor, but sort of take them under their wing to maybe help them get a little bit up to date, or somebody they can talk to offline about the process and how things work. Because I think if I were participating by Zoom for the first time, it would be extremely intimidating. So maybe there's some type of mentoring program or something you can think of that might help them get more integrated into the process.
Okay, that's a good thought. I mean, the first year anyway, when you're all in the same room, is difficult enough as it is.
Yeah, that's what, and I was just adding Zoom to that. It's going to make it even more challenging.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't disagree with you. So let me think about that. That's a good idea.
Okay.
I really support that. George was a great help to me when I joined. So George, thank you.
Diane, you're
For
welcome.
me and for the suggestion.
Okay, great. So let me see. So we've had a fair, we have something for member questions and feedback. We've had a fair amount of discussions, and George has just added something. Anything else from members about any questions, feedback, anything more or less that we should be doing? Okay, and not hearing anything. I think we can open this to questions from public and press. I haven't seen any questions come through. Erica, I don't know if you or Jane, you've seen any questions
I
come
don't have
through?
anything. No.
Okay,
Seen anything either.
okay, so nothing there. We have a topic, new business. I don't have any other new business to discuss here. So we don't have that. Old business, we have to approve the minutes of the last meeting in June. Jane has sent those out. I don't know if anyone had any questions or comments on those. I did not. I thought the minutes were fine.
I didn't hear from anybody, Peter.
Okay. So I guess we do a roll call on that
We-
vote.
Can you make a motion, Peter, to approve the minutes?
Okay, I make a motion to approve the
Well,
minute.
you're gonna call to have somebody make a motion.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve it.
Thank you,
I'll
George.
second that.
Who is
Okay,
that?
thank-
Mike to second.
Chris? Oh, thanks, Mike. All right, Peter, you can call for it now.
Okay. Well, let's do a roll here. I approve this, Peter. I approve the minutes. Peter Ittig.
So what we're gonna do is, a motion has been made and seconded to approve the June 2020 minutes. And I'm gonna call the roll for that. Peter
Okay.
Lentz,
I approve.
Bill Bruce,
I approve.
Jim Ferraro,
Approve.
Lauren Fitzpatrick,
Approve.
George Hertz,
Approve.
Angela Hughes,
Approve.
Peter Ittig.
Abstain. I don't recall seeing the minutes.
Okay, they are at the bottom of that document I sent. Caitlin Jerziak,
I approve.
Tom Kilgariff,
Approve.
Diane McCarthy,
Approve.
Chris Pareda,
Approve.
Mike Powers.
Approve.
11 approved with 1 abstention.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So we also have a topic of just taking a moment of recognition to former members. I didn't want it to go past that. We have 3 folks that are no longer with the FinCom that have made incredible contributions. So Cindy Buckley was the first one I just wanted to make a brief comment about, and really my own impressions of Cindy is that she was really great at making sure that we knew all sides of the issue and not afraid to take a contrarian view, just to really get us up to speed on things. And going forward, we really need people like that to really bring things up. And I think we owe a debt to Cindy, because she was really fantastic in really bringing up issues in a good way and really helping along with discussions. So I really appreciate Cindy for that. In terms of Howard Messing, Howard came back to FinCom, as he had been in FinCom for a long time. For those of you who know Howard, he was extremely busy at work, but he still found the time to help the town and to help us out. Howard's a man of few words, but always brought great insight, intelligence, and actual humor to what we did. And we're going to miss Howard too. And lastly, we have Barb is on the line here. Barb Delisle obviously was our chair. So she was a key contributor in that respect. But Barb was on FinCom, and she's done many other things for the town. And I can tell you personally that Barb really didn't want to be the chair last year. She was kind of nudging me to be the chair, and I wasn't really ready at the time. So as Barb would always do anything to help the town and to help FinCom. So she's been over time this incredible liaison between FinCom and the school committee, and she's been our resident expert in FinCom. And I want to thank Barb for stepping up last year. She did a great job, and it was a very challenging year. And I, for one, and I'm sure all of you from seeing a lot of head nodding there, really appreciate all the work that Barb did. But I just wanted to mention that and have that be part of the record.
Thank you. The
Barb,
reluctant chair was my title, I think.
Barb, we have a little gift for you here that, you know, I'm serving as Vanna right now. That
Thank you.
that you and I can talk about offline, present to you from the town with a lot of gratitude. So
Thank you.
we'll chat tomorrow.
Thank you,
It's
Barb.
it's nice seeing everybody here, and I'm glad to be off the committee. You've got your work cut out for you this year.
Good job.
You look nice and rested. You're not worried about this stuff.
Oh yeah, I let my hair grow. I'm just, it's, you know, it's just wonderful. I've been watching you. I watched your last meeting too. It's now for enjoyment and amusement.
Yeah. Okay.
When
Well-
you
But
two
I
get
also wanna
together,
I want to thank everybody for the year that we had last year. That was watching this Zoom meeting compared to our first Zoom meeting. I mean, it's like, you know, it's so different. And we really, you know, we really pulled it off and pull it off town meeting. I think it was really remarkable that we got all that done. And all the work that everybody put in on planning board items and other items that we ended up not being able to vote on. You know, it still was very valuable. And I know that the different boards went away with a lot of information. So when you see something from them again, it's going to be improved.
Yeah.
when you and Jane get together, make sure to wear masks and keep your distance.
Oh, we will.
We'll do a socially distanced pass at town hall.
Yep.
Oh, okay. If it's town hall, I was going to say there might be a glass of wine involved in that, but if it's in town hall, don't do
Well,
it there.
town hall is across the street from Kiara, but you know,
Okay. Well, thanks again.
well, lots of luck to you.
Yeah, we appreciate it. Don't be afraid to drop any of us, and myself included, a note if you see anything we should be doing better. We'll appreciate it.
No, every committee is different, and you all have your own makeup, and you know, you'll do fine.
Okay. So I think we're probably ready to adjourn if someone wants to make a motion.
I'll make the motion.
Thank you, George.
I'll second it.
Second.
Okay.
Diane.
Okay, so given that we've had the motion to adjourn, it's been second, I call the meeting adjourned.
Let me just call the roll, Peter.
Oh, we're going to call the roll for that
We have to
vote?
Call the roll, yes, sorry.
Okay, you're right, sorry.
No worries, that's great. Peter Lentz,
I agree.
Bill Bruce,
I agree.
thank you. Jim,
Yes.
Lauren,
Yes.
George,
Yes.
Angela,
I agree.
Peter Ittig,
Yes.
Caitlin Jerzak,
Yes.
Tom Kilgariff,
Yes.
Diane McCarthy,
Yes.
Chris Pareda,
Aye.
and Mike Powers.
Yes.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks all. Appreciate it.
Have a
Talk
good
to you
night.
soon.
Night.
Thank you. Have a
You
good
too.
night.